Hi everyone, and welcome to this JavaScript course. My name is Cornelius, and in this course I'm going to assume that you know absolutely nothing about JavaScript programming or programming in general. So I'll hold your hand up gradually through the beginner process where we'll talk about the basics, the absolute basics. Then we'll move on to the intermediate, and then the advanced concepts of JavaScript. So I'm not going to create just one course that will be about 10 hours or 12 hours long. I want to create a course based on each topic and concepts we are going to be talking about. So if you don't want to watch everything, or you're already a JavaScript developer and you just want to refresh your memory on any topic or concept, you can simply go to the video based on that topic in the playlist and watch it. But at the same time, if you're a beginner, I'll advise you to stick with the course throughout this course series in the playlist and watch it from the absolute beginning, because it will really help you a lot when we begin to talk about the advanced concepts later on. So what is JavaScript? JavaScript is an interpreted and multi-paradigm programming language used to script web pages. In other words, it helps add behavior, or let's say functionality, to websites, right? So it is also popularly called the language of the web, because JavaScript is popular because of the web, okay? So even though websites are what made JavaScript popular, it is not strictly the only area it can be applied. JavaScript programming language can be applied. The language can be applied in so many other areas, such as mobile app development, where you use frameworks like React Native and Ionic. And there are other areas like desktop development, backend development for websites, and game development. So the language is really versatile and deceptively powerful. But the thing about JavaScript is, most times people complain about how difficult the language is. And in reality, JavaScript is not a difficult language to learn. Just that, yeah, I admit it is weird in certain aspects, the way it works, the syntax, and some things that JavaScript allows, which you'll get to know when you begin to write JavaScript code. So JavaScript can be weird. But the good thing about that is that the strength of JavaScript lies in those areas that are weird, those concepts that seem confusing. That is actually where the strength of JavaScript lies. And when you get used to the language, you see that it is really beautiful and fun to work with. So without wasting time, let's get straight to it. Please don't mind my voice. I have sore throat, and so in this video we are going to set up our development environment. So for this course, we are going to be using just a software called Visual Studio Code, which is where we'll be writing our code. And then there are two places where we can run our JavaScript code. The number one option, which is also the most popular option, is a web browser. And in our case, we are going to be using Chrome. But being that the way I want us to learn JavaScript in this course is that I don't want us to lock the language to web development alone. So in this course, I want to abstract us from that mindset of web development with JavaScript. So for this course, although you can use your Chrome, and there is a time that we are going to start using Chrome to run our code, but from the beginning now, I want us to use something called Node.js. So Node.js is a runtime for running JavaScript code, which, when after compiling your code and you save it, it displays the output in the terminal. So instead of us coming to the web browser, we'll simply run our code and see it in the terminal in Visual Studio Code. So those are the three things we'll be using for this course. If you don't want to go with Node.js, that's perfectly fine. And if you want to go with Node.js, then we can go along with the course. Everybody can get along with it. So the first thing we are going to do now is download Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So for me, I already have Node.js, Visual Studio Code, and Chrome installed on my system. So I'm not going to be installing them, but I'll guide you on how to download and install them. Now, the first one we are going to download is VS Code. And all you need to do is go VS Code download. And then we go to the website, to the official site. So you see there's VS Code for any operating system you use, Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Now you don't need to do any of these 64 or 32 bits. You don't need to choose any of those manually. Just click on the download button up here and it automatically downloads VS Code for your operating system, and it knows whether your machine is 64 or 32 bits. So once again, I already have VS Code installed on my system, so I won't be downloading it. Now the installation process is really straightforward. All you need to do is click on install and make sure when installing it, you tick the box that says add to path. Most of the time, add to path is automatically ticked, but if it's not, just in case, make sure it is ticked. And why you need to do that is because anytime you are opening a project from desktop or anywhere else, to be able to tell you to open with code, and it really makes life easy. Then also tick on the desktop icon, create desktop icon, so that you can have the desktop icon on your desktop. So it's really straightforward. And the next thing we need to do right now is download Node.js. So I'm going to give you some time to download the VS Code. And the next thing we do is to download Node.js. So after installing our VS Code, the next thing we are going to do right now is to download and install Node.js. And to do that, you simply type Node.js download. And there you have it. Click on download Node.js. And it takes us there. Just click on the LTS recommended for most users. You don't need to go to current. Although the current comes with the latest features, it is not stable yet. So that you won't have any problem along the line, just go with the LTS, click on it. It downloads automatically for your operating system. And what you can do is just follow the installation instructions and make sure you add to path the same way you do with the VS Code. It's very important to add to path. That's all you need to do. So after doing that, there's nothing much to do. And for those that will be using the web browser, once again, you can use any web browser of your choice, but preferably Chrome. So we've opened VS Code, and the next thing we are going to do now is to write our first JavaScript code. Before we do that, I want to make some things clear. In this course, I will be talking about JavaScript, the programming language, not React.js or any other framework for that matter. The focus of this course and throughout this playlist is going to be on JavaScript, the programming language. You see, one of the main benefits of JavaScript as a programming language is that it is very versatile, right? So meaning it can be used for so many things. And due to this reason, so many frameworks and libraries have been created over the years by experienced programmers to make software development process easier, right? So this in itself is not a bad thing, as it makes things, like I said, faster and development time to be faster and easier. But it affects how many people, especially beginners, approach the language. For instance, right now online you'll see so many courses that will tell you to learn React.js for front-end web development, and most of the time when they talk about JavaScript, they simply talk about JavaScript DOM, the document object model, which is the area that you really need to go into front-end web development, right? Now JavaScript is not just about websites, building websites. Like I mentioned in the beginning, it can be used to build mobile apps, desktop applications, and many other things. So the problem now with learning those frameworks and libraries is that if you do not have a solid foundation in JavaScript, know how the language itself works, your capacity and the things you'll be able to do as a JavaScript developer in any area you decide to focus on, be it front end, web development, back end, or even if you decide to go full stack, right? Or mobile app using React Native, your capacity will be limited. In other words, the more you know the programming language, the more you will be able to do with the framework. There is no shortcut around it. And that is one of the main reasons I have decided to use Node.js instead of a web browser for this course. And the reason is that I want you to get familiar with the language, okay? Not just with the mindset of building a website or of being a web developer. It's fine if you want to be a web developer, but I want you to learn the language in its raw form, right? Know JavaScript, know how it works, why it works. So after learning all these concepts, then you can go ahead and apply it to any form of software development that you want to use JavaScript for. So that's all for the talk. Let's get to it. So you see I've opened VS Code, and before I do that, I went to my desktop and I created a folder. You can do that too for this course. So I name it JavaScript tutorial. And why I do that is because in this course, I will be creating a file for each concept we are going to be talking about: variables, data types, operators, functions, arrays, and stuff like that. So I'll create a separate file for each of those concepts we were talking about. And I'll expect you to do the same, so that at the end of the day, when you need to revisit, sorry about that, when you need to revisit any concept in the future, you won't get lost, or probably we create just one file and after creating a concept, we delete the code and write something else. So I want us to create a file for each concept. And by doing that, you'll be able to revisit it. And I encourage you in this course to type along. Okay, don't just watch the video. Engage in active learning. Type the code as I type, and I promise you it will be fun. So what we are going to do right now is to create a new file. So I'm not really talking about anything in this video. I just want to show you how to write your first line of JavaScript code. And how we'll do that is to click on new file. Let me just say app.js. And we enter. So here you have it, your first JavaScript file. We've created our first JavaScript file, and to run our first JavaScript code, we'll simply type console.log so in the parentheses you add quotation mark. You can do double quotes, you can do single quotes, and type hello world. Okay, so that's it. We've typed hello world. So how do we run our code? And at the end, you can add a semicolon. Now, how do we run the code? I will show you how to run it in Node.js, and also how to run it using a web browser. So the first thing we are going to do is to open terminal. You can open terminal up here that says terminal, and you can simply go here. And what you do down here, after installing Node.js, if you want to check if Node.js is installed on your system, you can simply do node-v. See, this is the version of the Node.js on my machine. So right now, to run our code, we simply do node app. You can write app.js, but there's no need for that. So before we go ahead, like I said, the next thing we are going to do is go back to our file and save. And we will do that is Ctrl S on Windows, Command S on Mac, and I don't know what you use on Linux, but just save it. Or you can simply go to file here and you see save. Just do the save. So after that, we'll come back to the terminal down here and enter. We've already typed our node app. So we'll simply enter, and there you have it. Hello world. You've written your first line of JavaScript code. And if you're a beginner, this is your first line. Congratulations. You're now a programmer. Actually, you're just getting started. So for those using a web browser, we'll need HTML file to run our code, and to do that we'll simply go index.html, come to file up here and create index.html, enter, and there you have it. So inside this we'll need to create an HTML boilerplate that will be able to run your JavaScript code in. So because you need HTML to be able to do anything in the web browser, including running JavaScript code in the web browser. So to do that, we need to create an HTML boilerplate. So you can simply type doc and enter. So you see, one of the benefits of VS Code is that it has so many extensions you can use to add code snippets to your code. So instead of us typing everything from scratch, we simply type doc and it brings it. So this is your HTML file. So for people that don't know anything about web development, this is what you use to structure the body of a web page or for a website. So since we are not talking about HTML here, let's just go straight to the point. So one thing we are going to do is we'll create a header using h1, which is the biggest header there is in HTML. So what we'll do now is also another hello world, because that's the tradition when learning a programming language. The first thing you write is hello world. Our button keeps messing up. So after doing that, we go to the down. Always make sure you put your JavaScript link at the down of your HTML body. So what we do now is script. Simply choose script, and we do actually have forgotten how to. I've forgotten actually. Script. Okay, I think we do source, right? Source. src. Then inside the source, exactly, I've gotten it. Inside the source, we are going to write our index, or you can simply do so. When you put // it brings any file you want to use. So we can do index.html, enter it, and just like our JavaScript file, you save, Ctrl S. And now for me, I have this extension that I download called Live Server, which helps you to automatically launch your web page from VS Code without having to go to Chrome itself. So to get Live Server, you can simply come to extensions here. I can't find extensions. Okay, you come to extensions here and you search for the extension up there in the marketplace and you get it. So there are so many other extensions you can also use, but for now we are not really going to look into all that. So I have my live server installed already. This is it. So this is my live server. I have it installed already and enabled globally. So once again, I don't need to re-download it and reinstall, but you can simply download it and it will make the process easy for you if you want to run your code in the web browser. So after saving our HTML file, now the next thing we do is to simply click on go live, right? So when we click on go live, live server will automatically launch our project in Chrome. And that's not the only benefit. Another benefit is that every changes we make here, had it been we want to be working on HTML, every change we make in our HTML code, as soon as we save it, it will be automatically updated in the browser. So what we'll do now is click go live, and let's wait for it to launch our project on Chrome. So here we have it. We have our hello world, but this is not exactly where we are going to see our code. What we need to go to is go to more tools, then come to developer tools, right? There is shortcut for it, but through this, I don't remember most of those shortcuts. So what's the problem? It's saying uncaught syntax error, unexpected token. Okay, let's go back to our VS Code and see. Line 1 is okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It should be app.js, not index.html, because we are trying to add our JavaScript file, not HTML file, inside HTML file. So it should be app.js inside the script. So you see, this is one of the difference between JavaScript and HTML. HTML is just a markup language, but for JavaScript will yell at you when you write something that is not okay. So now we'll see live server has automatically updated the web page. So when we go there now, we expect to see hello world, and here you have it. So our code worked in the web browser, and it also did in Node.js. So that's all for this video, and in the next video we are going to be talking about variables, and I hope by then I would have my voice back. So that's all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the tutorial, and I'll try my best to explain every concept of JavaScript in this playlist to the best of my ability, because that's the purpose for creating this course. Right guys, I'll see you all in the next one.